Good morning, people.
Morning.
We don't normally do these in the morning, but we are back. This is Reggie's World. I can't even remember what episode we're on anymore, but we've got something very, very exciting for you guys today. We've been off for a while. We've been working on some stuff, and I'm proud to introduce that we have our first ever political guest that we're going to be having on the podcast.
Yeah.
Everyone give a round of applause for Councillor Rowena Santos.
Sir. So as you've seen from our social media post, Prab is suspended. So he could not be here. We are working on the legal implications for that whole situation. But until then, Rajiv and I will take care of the episode. I am genuinely excited to have you here. I think especially people in my age group see politics as something that's just very boring and very plain, and you're one of the few people that make it very exciting, eccentric, and fun. So it was a no-brainer that we had to bring you on to the show and really get people to understand, like, what is this world? So thank you for joining us on the show.
I am so excited and so happy that you all visited me in City Hall the other day. And,
we apologize for the...
Yeah, we got a bit rowdy when left alone.
Yeah, it was Prab's idea. So.
Yeah.
It's all good. But honestly, just so pleased. Like, one of the biggest things is connecting with young people. And like you said, for the most part, even sometimes for me, I'm sitting at that council table bored out of my mind. And it does get a little bit boring sometimes. But in order to engage people, you have to kind of show them the other side of the world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get right into it. Like, how did you get into politics? Like, how did you enter this world?
I never imagined being a politician.
Really?
Like, I mean, look at me.
Let's do, why don't you give a quick description of your role? Because you're a city councillor.
Yeah.
So what does that necessarily entail for someone who doesn't know?
Yeah. So a councillor is an elected position at the municipal level. So with the city of Brampton, for example. And we get elected every single election. The next election is in 2026. I got reelected in 2022.
Vote.
Going door to door, knocking on doors, asking people to vote for us, sharing what it is that we're going to do differently for the city of Brampton, how we're going to make decisions, what the budget's going to be, property taxes, a whole bunch of different things, parks and recreation decisions as well. And I got elected into a position similar to like what an MPP, member of provincial parliament or federal parliament, would have gotten elected, but at the city level. So as a councillor, I make decisions around the table at City Hall where you guys were playing basketball.
Yeah.
And then, it's also about the opportunity that this role provides. So for me, it's not just about making decisions at the council table, it's about changing the culture of politics, engaging young people, doing things for seniors, doing things for women, doing things for marginalized community, doing things for the arts. It's taking it kind of above and beyond.
So my one thing is, so you don't necessarily need to have a political science background or anything to really do this, right? Because I feel like a lot of people wouldn't even think to like do that. Like, we probably have a lot of people who live everyday lives who can probably make a difference.
Yeah, I never thought that I would do this. My background's in business, did my business degree, went to London School of Economics. I thought I would be in the business world making tons and tons of money.
Right.
But it turns out that really, making tons and tons of money is not what it's all about.
Yeah.
And I started to realize that when I was working at General Mills doing marketing, thinking to myself, am I really making a difference in this world by selling Hamburger Helper? Like, you know what I mean? So the amazing thing is, like, it gives you, I got incredible skills from the business world and all the other professional experience I had. But I'm finding more and more, like, young people and people in general really want to contribute back to the community.
Yeah.
They want to do more.
Yeah.
And so part of doing more for me was going into politics and electing more people of color, electing women, so that we can start to bring those voices at the table. Now, do you need a degree? No. The only qualification you need to run, you have to be a citizen You have to live in Brampton if you're running for office in Brampton, and you have to be over the age of 18. You have to be voting age.
That's not too specific. That's
No.
pretty.
Wow.
That is very
No.
possible.
It's totally possible, but I'll tell you, it's a lot of hard work.
Of course.
I can
It's a
imagine.
lot of hard work, especially for people like us, to convince,
Yeah.
folks who either normally don't engage in politics or in government,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
folks who don't look like us.
Yeah.
Have a specific, like they have a specific picture in mind of a politician. I
Yeah.
understand. Yeah, I get
But
that.
we're changing that, which
Yeah.
is great.
Which is good because, like I said, like I don't really see you as the traditional politician, right? Like you, like people with your character and your attitude really help to show people that like this is a world that you can engage in, and it's not something that has to just be like like
Yeah.
boring in suits
Yeah.
and such. So
Yeah, like sitting at an office all day, taking calls,
Yeah.
getting yelled at by somebody. But it's like, like whenever I look, we got to check out her Instagram. We'll put it in the description. You are
She's
all over the place. You're at
active.
events,
active,
very active on social media. All it's actually nice to have you sitting here because it's
Aw.
like I see you everywhere, and it's like now we get to sit down and actually have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
Like all over the place, man. It's so nice, and like you were saying before, it's very time consuming.
Yeah.
Time consuming. So it's like there's very very tough. Well, I don't want to say tough, but I guess it's more of a privilege to be able to, I don't know, like help so many people. Like I don't know how to describe it. Like even being able to go out and see all these people and actually make a difference rather than people like
For sure.
the
And-
sitting behind the desk thing really.
But
really
it's
gets me.
and that's how you start to change a culture, right? That's how you I knew going into this, running for office my first time in 2018, that not all politicians, in fact, 90% of the politicians didn't look like me, didn't speak like me, didn't have the experience I did as an immigrant family, growing up in Jane and Finch in the hood and
Oh,
then
shit.
moving to Brampton. Like
Wait, so
no-
you were born in Jane Finch?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I lived and was raised in Jane and Finch when my parents came from the Philippines, and along with like members of my family in the 1970s. Jane and Finch was the place where immigrants went, and so I lived on in an apartment on San Romano Way. If folks know where that is, San Romano Way, and I stayed there with my family, my cousins, until the age of 5. And my family saved enough money. They worked their asses off, saved enough money to finally buy a house in Brampton.
Wow.
Their first home. You know how much that home was? It was in Professor's Lake area, 3-bedroom house, 1,400 square feet. You know how much they bought it for? $94,000.
Oh my goodness.
Holy smokes.
In the 1980s.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like so much pride. But there aren't enough politicians out there who have that experience. And so people like me, people like us, when we choose to run for office, we already stand out.
Yeah.
We already are like seen by the world like we don't belong at that table.
Yeah.
And I was ready for the criticism. I was ready for the being underestimated, undermined, everything. Because for my whole career as an immigrant, that's how my life has been.
Yeah.
I've always had to work hard and prove myself, right?
Yeah.
So the learning lesson for me has always been, in politics in particular, is just to be yourself. 100% authentically, cowboy boots, cowboy hat, ripped jeans, very expressive shirt, authentic self, lover of the arts, lover of riding my bike, authentic self. You know why? Because people are going to criticize us anyway.
Yeah.
So they're going to criticize
Yeah.
you for being a fraud or a fake
Yeah.
and like lying to yourself, pretending to be something other than yourself.
Yeah.
Then what's the point? I'd rather like just hold my own integrity.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I went to school for political science, and one of the biggest things that drew me away from politics was it felt like there was no right side.
Yeah.
It's more like no matter what you think or what you feel, there's always a side criticizing you for those
Yeah.
beliefs or for et cetera. So I really like that you're coming in with this attitude, like you're gonna get criticized anyways. So
Yeah.
might as well be yourself and be who you are. Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like when you go to sleep at night, you can say like, I'm me. I'm not
Yeah.
pretending to be something, or I'm not holding someone else's beliefs to heart. So
Yeah, and it's amazing too because I come from a performing arts background, right?
wow.
And so the beautiful thing about being so deeply connected with the arts and understanding what it's like to perform on a stage is that when you're on a stage or when you're like performing your song or your music or whatever, you're a DJ and you're performing, you're in your own world and you are fully expressed. Even if you're playing a different role on the stage, you're fully expressed and you have that as an outlet.
Yeah.
And you'll see artists, even like yourselves, like you guys are just, you're just real. You're just like yourself. There's no fear there.
Exactly.
And that's where I learned from performing arts as well, is that in politics, I take that with me.
I think if you'd like to speak more to it, what are some of the, like, as you were coming up as a counselor, what do you think were some of the biggest challenges in terms of, actually, I guess just in general, like, you know, what,
Trying to get your foot in the door.
yeah, like, what do you think really took the most effort from you to really get here?
Yeah.
You know, made the most impact on you? What do you think it was?
The challenge is to become a counselor.
Yeah, like the whole process, you know, to become where you are now.
It's a lot of work, and you know, I'll be fully real. When you're running for office, money matters. So for a person like myself, being a woman, we are already not as paid as equally as men, and women have a harder time, and immigrants and people like myself have a harder time asking for money and support in order to run a campaign.
Yeah.
Right.
So to win, you have to win a campaign. It's you have to have volunteers, you have to have the resources. So my first time running in 2018, thank God I had experience doing it for other people, so I kind of knew what to do. But for any first time candidates, even for myself, trying to raise that money was tough.
Yeah.
Right? That's a tough thing for that's why, you know, there's a barrier there for people of color, people of immigrant families, newcomers or what have you, to reach higher levels of government and be elected, is that one financial
And
barrier.
what do those costs entail, and what do they go to when it comes to trying to raise money?
Yeah.
Like, what does raising money for a campaign entail? Like, what does that money get used for? Is it like advertising? Is it
Your signs, so all the signs on the lawn, your staff at the office who are helping you, your database, your flyers that go into the mailing, like so that people can actually get your flyers at the door.
Wow.
It's a lot of money, and it's at least about $60,000 per person that you'd have to raise if you're a candidate.
And there's no like subsidies or grants? Like,
No,
wow.
no, not at the city of Brampton. So you got to ask a lot of people, got to ask family and friends. And then, you know, there's some people who are really wealthy
Yeah.
who can fund your whole campaign if you wanted them to, or if they wanted to, but they can't because there's a maximum contribution per individual of $1,200. That's the max you can
Oh,
give.
that's
Right?
big.
So it's like, you know, 60 people giving $1,200 each. Like, I don't know how many people know 60 people give $1,200 each.
Wow. I didn't
Yeah.
know that. I didn't know that they capped it like that.
Yeah.
Like, even in your best case scenario where you find someone that's like, oh, just fund your whole thing, you can't.
Can't.
Wow. Why is that? Do you think it's for like political reasons, or like,
I think it's so that people are more on a level playing field with their campaigns, right? So if you're rich and wealthy and you've got a lot of rich and wealthy friends, you could raise money just like that.
Yeah.
Versus maybe someone who's just graduated from university and wants to run for office. Well, guess what? They can't do the same thing. So their chances are a lot less if they can't raise as much money.
The other thing I've noticed recently as well is in terms of like advertising.
Yeah.
Back in the day, maybe let's say 20, 30 years ago, it's a lot of door to door, a lot of signs, a lot of maybe a TV commercial if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Now with Twitter and Instagram and social media, a lot of campaigning I see is done online via tweets, Instagram posts, reels and stuff like that. I feel like people would need, especially nowadays, have to take advantage of something like that.
Yeah.
To really make a dent.
Because now more than ever, it's easy to go straight to the voter, I would say. Like, you know, like you could just go on live. And that's one thing I mentioned that you're really good at. You're really good. You have a really heavy social media presence, and it doesn't take much for someone to go on your profile and see, oh, she's really out here with the people. She's on live. She's rocking out. You know, Rowena was at our basement events, and she was there the whole time just vibing out, you know, where I feel like most people would come just to say, hey, I'm here, and leave, right?
Yeah.
But you know, you were genuinely there for the love of it. So that was another thing I wanted to speak on with your arts background. first of all, like, how was the basement for you?
Loved it. I stayed the whole time.
Yeah.
Loved it. I even took home those Krispy Kreme donuts and ate them when I got back.
Yeah.
We
had so many because a lot of people left early and they didn't realize that you have to stay to the end to get the treats. So
it was so good, honestly. And you know, I was just being myself, loving the music, loving the vibe. Can't wait for next time. But one of your artists, Ajani Azur, who performed, ended up performing with me at my next gig for Hockey Night in Brampton. Because I've been so impressed with the young artists that you brought to the event.
Yeah, no, thank you. I feel like a lot of people do not believe that politicians or people that work in politics have any hobbies whatsoever. So, you want to just break down like what are like, you do music, you sing, like what aside from your work, like what do you enjoy doing and how do you find time for those things?
Oh my gosh, so I'm a single mom too.
Wow.
Right? And so the demands of the job and all the events I do, the interesting thing is that the more work you do as a politician or as a counselor and the more visible you are, the more people want your time.
Yeah.
Right? And not only do they want more of your time, which I love being out there in the community for, everyone wants you at their event. They're like, I saw you here. Can you come here? Can you come here?
Yeah.
But then they also they know that you're the one that gets work done. So then they will call you all the time. My team is here today and they know they're like total witnesses to this.
Yeah, we got a nice audience with us today.
The more your email inbox gets, more calls you get to help them with their problems or to show up to their events. But some of my other hobbies when I have time, and I try really hard to make time for them, is my band. So Point of Order is my band.
Okay.
And we do various gigs sometimes throughout the city. We do music video every single year. I try to stay as healthy as possible. So I wake up 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm on my bike and riding, trying to stay healthy. I also used to be a martial artist. So I used to do Muay Thai, Taekwondo. I used to teach Muay Thai, kickboxing. And I love dancing. So I also used to do like ballroom dancing. And take ballroom dancing lessons, salsa dancing, merengue, Latin dancing. And then one thing you don't know, and I'll share it here. So one of the things I also used to do when I was also teaching kickboxing and I was doing my master's in London, England, I was also a professional belly dancer.
Really?
Wow.
And I taught belly dancing to students at London School of Economics and the University of Westminster.
That's
and
insane.
we would perform at like weddings and the graduation ball in front of live audiences. So I used to be a professional belly dancer.
That's insane. What?
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, that's
You know, back in the day when Shakira, her song, Crystal Line, when like belly dancing was all in, everyone was doing belly dancing. I was doing belly dancing. And I loved it. I loved the dance. It's such a beautiful dance.
Yeah, that
You heard it here first.
Yeah, I'm not even know what to say. That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's a clip.
No, I don't like that.
Oh man, that's so interesting. Like, especially the bike riding. Me and Jordan, shout out, like, rest in peace to my bike. But we were riding bikes as well a lot this year. We hoped to be able to get a little bit more done in the summertime, but I feel like it's very bike riding specifically. It's so like nothing bothers you.
No.
Like we're where are we going? Everyone meets up and then you just start riding.
Yeah.
And it's like the stress you had 20 minutes ago. It's like it's gone.
It's a different vibe when you're riding your bike versus driving your car or like anything else. Like you see more, you're more connected. People are a lot more civil. I got a lot of road rage here. Bad drivers in Brampton. But thank you for bringing this up because part of the things that since 2018 that I've been advocating for is providing more options for people to get around using active transportation, whether that's on a scooter or whether that's on your bike or, you're a senior on a mobility device, right? Like we need more ways for people to get around because not everyone wants to sit in traffic. Like sometimes I could get on my bike to City Hall in like 7 minutes, versus driving in traffic, which would take me like 10 or 12.
Yeah, like I remember, so me, like Rajiv and I were in LA, and we were having so much fun with the electric scooters.
Yeah.
And we came back to Brampton, and then I think it was just when you guys started rolling
Launching.
out the scooters, and we were like, "There's no way!" And it was the same brand and everything too. The scooter app, and we were like, "No way!" We were so
It's here?
excited. It's here.
Yeah,
like,
when we left, nobody even thought about something like that. Went to LA, had some shenanigans on the scooter, and then we come back and it's like, bam, right away we got all the yellow ones. People are popping up everywhere, and it's like,
E-scooty,
Yeah, those I have so much fun with. So
Did you know that scooter is designed and manufactured in Brampton by Brampton entrepreneurs?
really?
Yeah.
they were actually
E-scooty.
locally, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did not know
Now
that.
they're doing e-bikes as well.
Ah.
But you know, like in order for those things to happen, you need to actually have the infrastructure in place to support it.
Right.
And we've got a lot of like trails throughout the city, which is great.
Yeah.
But now we're also implementing on-road infrastructure
Yeah.
to connect to everything. So you could go to the school, you could go to the grocery store, you could go to the library, you could go to
Yeah.
the rec center, because now everything is starting to get connected.
Yeah, and because you also can't ride them on the sidewalk. I
No.
believe. So like having like I know if you go downtown, like they have like bike lanes and everything. So it's the city's almost built for being able to bike across town,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah,
see that.
I think the big cities jumped on that a lot earlier.
Yeah.
Like New York City, there's this famous TikToker. They have the bike lanes, but New York is such a mess, and he just yells and screams and profanity at people, like, "Oh, it's good that you're in the bike lane. Get on a bike," like stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's gonna be a big thing here. Like, we were doing rides every maybe once or twice a week, and we found a whole bunch of trails.
Yeah.
Really,
They put some in our neighborhood too. So
Awesome.
they put a couple. So
I
we
love
just
to
been,
hear that, because there's a
Yeah.
lot of resistance in Brampton sometimes. You know, when you are in a suburban driving culture, people aren't very sure what to do when they see bikes on the road or scooters on the road.
Oh nah! Just last week I saw like 4 guys on one scooter.
oh, that battery was
No,
dangerous.
it's
Oh
That's
no.
awesome.
yeah. They're all hanging tight together. Four men.
Oh man,
So yeah,
making use of the equipment.
so people are loving it out here. So it's pretty cool to see.
I'm glad. That's awesome.
Speaking of things that you want to push in Brampton, I know we talked about this at the meeting a little
Yeah.
bit before, but I did notice a lot of new food places.
Yeah.
Before it was more McDonald's, Subway, like your generic franchise brands. But now I've
Right.
noticed there's a lot more unique, individualistic people opening businesses
Mm-hmm.
in terms of food. So like I know Mississauga. I don't talk Mississauga, but Mississauga does have a very good food scene.
Yeah.
Like those guys have all sorts, like all over the world, you can
Yeah,
find something
yeah.
to eat. But I wonder, have you noticed a little bit more? Because food, I noticed food on social media. Food, you don't have to be anyone of
Course.
status, anything. You can post anything about food. Like, is there anything that has caught your eye recently in terms of? Because I mean, over here it's a little bit harder. I noticed further down near City
Right.
Hall they have a lot of new unique
Downtown
spots. Like,
Brampton,
is there anything
yeah.
that you've seen recently that has caught your eye, or have you tried something
Well, there's
that's
a
really
new
good?
place that's just opened up. That's like 24-hour place in downtown Brampton. It's called Grillies. It's like a franchise, but they have 24-hour tacos, amazing cheeseburgers, like poutine. Like I'm actually going to be taking my son and my niece there later. So that
Okay.
place just recently opened up. But being a single mom and also very busy with a very busy job doesn't give me much time to cook food at home
Yeah.
a
Right.
lot of times. So I support local,
Yeah.
and I know all of my favorites
Yeah.
in Brampton, whether that's Sunny's or Indian Curry Express
Yeah.
or Desi Road in Brampton. Have you been to Desi Road?
That's zero. No.
Oh my God, such a great place.
Yeah.
Yeah, so delicious. It's like contemporary Indian fusion cuisine
Okay.
in like a really cool vibe in an interesting spot in Brampton.
Yeah.
So, and there's always lineups every single night to get in. And then there's Filipino food
Yeah,
like
I was
in
just about to ask
Brampton
about
too.
that.
Fan de Flame
Fan the flame.
Fan de Flame on Gillingham in the Gillingham Plaza.
I'm writing that down.
So delicious with their chicken barbecue, Filipino barbecue, as well as lechon, or the Kamayan style eating where you eat with your hands and banana leaves.
Right.
So delicious. Tito Jumbo's, also Filipino, downtown Brampton.
Okay.
Makes the best bangos sisig. I could go on and on about the food in Brampton because I rarely cook.
Right.
I usually just take takeout at home.
And I think that's what I think it was one of the underappreciated things right now in the city with the amount of like creativity that's going on. I think it's something we can definitely. I've been thinking about it myself. We have Reggie's World. You could do like Reggie's Eats or something.
Oh, I love that idea.
And go and do like food reviews of Brampton because there's a lot of people in Toronto. There's a lot of people all over the United States who do it. It's like why not? Why not put a spotlight on Brampton,
I love
right?
that idea. You should totally do that.
And I've been like I don't know. I was thinking. I don't know. Like we do like when new spots open up, you can really. It's a lot easier to go and put a spotlight on them as well, right?
Yeah.
So like make it a little bit easier for them when they open as well. Same
Yeah.
thing like I was saying with the advertising. Hop on social media, try to help them out more like that as well.
And we have everything in Brampton, every single culture. So I didn't even mention like Nova Grill or Portage de Mar or Golden Grains, all Portuguese food, amazing food. There's also so many different Caribbean foods in Brampton. You look like you're getting hungry, Rich.
Me? Oh man, I can go.
You're like licking your lips.
I can go for some
writing
good
it
chicken.
down. Like,
Middle Eastern food, Charms in downtown Brampton. I'm shouting out to like my favorites actually.
No, it's good because a lot of people in my age group feel like there's not like enough creativity compared to like Saga or like Toronto, but I think it's that a lot of us are not looking for it as well.
Yeah.
So it's good to hear like, no, have you tried this? Have you tried this?
like I'll give you some interesting statistics that maybe you don't know about Brampton. So in Brampton, we have over 250 different cultures.
Wow.
In Brampton. And our city, people in our city speak over 170 different languages.
Wow.
And so when you have that collision of so many different cultures, you're going to get really good food. 100% you're going to get really good food.
Yeah.
And you can't really even compare the types of different cultures and languages in Brampton to Toronto or Mississauga. We are very unique. So, for example, there's a larger Nigerian community that's moving into Brampton. And we have an entrepreneur who makes this very special Nigerian bread, which is now being manufactured in Brampton and shipped throughout the entire country.
Wow.
So like there's like this collision of culture, of creativity, but also delicious food.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is how do you feel about so we have I don't know if we can is there anything that you want to spotlight, like it can be political, it can be like whatever you want to talk about in terms of something you like and like you're working on, you're interested in doing in the next couple months, or anything that you want to put some emphasis on?
Yeah, I think one of the things that keeps coming up lately, and this is important because it's important for folks to understand that when we're trying to change the culture and you're visible and you're doing a lot of hard work, you become a target. And so one of the things that I have been pushing and calling out is the level of harassment and toxicity, particularly in politics, right? And because there's like so much social media out there and it's difficult to control social media, the number of trolls and hate out there has just escalated, where it's turning people off, people like me, turning them off from wanting to run. Now imagine if I wasn't there and it was just another white dude sitting in that seat. See, like representation matters, right? So 100%. I've been calling out regularly the amount of harassment. I got sent once a letter in the mail that said that I deserve to be raped and killed.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Like a physical letter, like sent. Wow.
Like handwritten letter that I deserve to be raped and killed, and threats to my son, for example.
That's insane.
And it has nothing to do really with or like some of my inbox and on Facebook, the inappropriate pictures that I get sent
Yeah.
on Facebook and comments, like being called a C or a B.
Yeah.
You know, like sometimes it gets really out of control.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I call it out because I know that other women and people of color face the same toxicity. And if we don't call out that harassment, we're just condoning it. You know?
And normalizing it.
You're saying, okay, well, you can say that to her. I guess you could say that to my daughter too.
Yeah.
I guess you could say that to my mom. Like, and that is absolutely, we have to put our foot down on that. Like, we could joke and everything like that. But once it gets serious to that level, you threaten democracy. You threaten the ability for people like myself to want to even do the job. You know?
And I feel like more than ever, especially with today, a lot of social media, because a lot of times it's mostly younger people, and they're saying stuff that they would never say to your face in your eyes.
That's right.
You know, I think like the phone has allowed people to be a lot bolder than they are in person.
Yeah.
They're saying crazy things that you would never even mouth online because it's just a type.
It's easy.
You know, it's easy, but like in person or when it's face to face, they wouldn't even think of it.
Totally, and it's cowardly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not the majority of them that I've experienced, they're actually not that young. They're like old.
Wow.
I
They're
feel like,
old retired folks.
and I think this is something that a theme that we've kind of been on the whole podcast so far. The older generation kind of has, like, they've grown up with a certain look of what they expect someone to be as a politician or an engineer or like anything you can think of. So now when we're diversifying and we're becoming, multicultural, things are different. It's not like you're back in another country where you grew up and everyone is the same color, right? Like I know my family's dealt with that. I would imagine Jordan had something like that. As a Filipino, I imagine you have the same thing as well, where it's like now we're in a new country with new people and these. And I'm not saying, I'm just speculating. Could be that a lot of people who are a little older coming here and seeing this, it's different for them. They don't know how to express themselves.
Yeah.
And it's like, sure, they're expressing themselves, but there's a way to do it properly. And then I feel like you're going to have a small amount of people who thinks it's okay to, bring up whatever, like, be nasty, be like, I feel like there's always a right way to do it, a right way to say it. If you have an actual issue, let's bring it up and get addressed. And then when they don't get heard or they don't do it the right way, then they resort to things like this.
Or if they don't even have an argument other than fear, like, and being scared of change or like, how dare those people? Like, I get that stuff too. How dare those people do this? Well, like, you know what? You don't, it's this fear of change. And there's been situations where I know who these people are. I see them at the farmer's market.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I will approach them and be like, you got something to say to my face? Would you like to share to my face what you're sharing on social media? They never say a freaking word. They just like walk by. And like, how cowardly is that? You know what I mean?
But that's good too that you're able to, like a lot of people will, like we were discussing, if you're not calling it out or calling it for what it is, we're normalizing it or we're saying, like, we're indirectly saying it's okay. So the fact that you're able to really run up on people and be like, yo, like, what's good? I'm here.
Listen, it's my Jane and Finch roots.
There you go.
And I think personally, like, because I'm a very straightforward person. Like, if we have like, I don't know, if there's a problem, I'm very good at like bringing it up. Let's figure out how to deal with it. And I find that that's something that a lot of people, like, if I was to go up to them, like, let's say a stranger, for example, it's very hard for some people to express themselves when put on like a spotlight. Yeah. And I think that's where like they'd rather be here in the shadows. Yeah. Like once they get called out or they get shown the stage, they're not comfortable. And I feel like that's a lot of the times that's what it is.
It's lazy.
Yeah.
You know what? I tell you, it's lazy. It's lazy. It's easier to kind of just criticize, the artist for not singing well. It's easier to criticize the musician for writing a shitty song or what have you. It is harder to just do it yourself.
Yeah.
It's harder to have the courage to put yourself out there, put yourself on a stage, and despite your own fears and despite your own shortcomings of yourself, you're still doing it anyway.
Yeah.
It's harder to do that than it is to just criticize and like, take someone down from the sidelines.
Right. Are you wearing sunglasses, by the way?
I know.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. I
always
should have
wear
worn
them.
my sunglasses.
Yeah, it's. I feel like the Silver Surfer whenever I
Oh,
wear
yeah.
these. So I like wearing these out.
I like it.
Yo.
Thank you. I like the cowboy hat.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh yeah, we made sure you had to do the cowboy hat. It's like legendary now.
No, yeah, it's so March, was it 2020?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think March.
Like I woke up and the world just shut down. Obviously that was like COVID kicked in, and for a while a lot of people didn't know what was going on until like March when the premier came out and said Ontario shut down, and then like Mississauga came out and had their press conference. Brampton came out, had their press conference. What was that like, just for you guys, like working in the city, and how were you guys being fed information? Because it felt like every week leading up to that was something different. Like, did you guys know everything was going to shut down? Was it, like?
Yeah. So we were a year and a half into the term that I was first elected in. So I got elected in October 2018, sworn in December 2018. So that's when I officially started as a councillor. And I had all of these wonderful ideas of what I would do my first term and blah, 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 all these amazing plans and motions. And then in January, must have been late January, in one of our council meetings, this topic of COVID-19 started to creep up. At the time, no one was really taking it seriously. But I'll give a shout out to my colleague, Councillor Michael Paleshi, who on the side during the meeting in January said to me, I think this is a lot more serious than people think.
Wow.
Right.
And then in a month later, almost a month and a few weeks later, actually it was Brampton, we shut down our recreation centers and wanted to shut down our schools even before the province did.
Wow.
Because it started to get really, really bad. And what was that like? It was like deer caught in headlights. No city, no country has ever dealt with something like this before. There was a lot of fear and confusion around masks and sanitizer and washing fruit at the grocery
Oh
store.
my goodness.
Remember that?
The Lysol
People
wipes?
were like washing bananas in the sink. And I'm like, wait, and one of my colleagues was like, I'm like, what are you doing? I'm washing bananas for my mom. I'm like, what?
Like, wait.
Yeah. I heard that COVID could get spread through like grocery store touching fruit. I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah, nobody knew what to do really. Everyone just thought how is it to be the safest?
I know. And so there was and then you couldn't meet in person. So we had to immediately shift technology over so we can have virtual meetings.
What was the big one? Zoom? Is that
Zoom.
the everyone
Yeah.
started using Zoom,
Zoom
right?
went platinum in the streets.
And so like, oh my God, but the resiliency of our people and, council and the city staff, we managed to flip over and adjust, you know what I mean? But can you imagine that was like over 4 years ago?
Yeah.
Over 4 years ago, for 2.5 years,
Yeah.
we couldn't do this.
Yeah.
We couldn't do this.
I feel like everybody lost 2 years of their lives, like in a sense, because
but it's kind of amnesia now. People
Yeah.
have forgotten,
Like that was a very dark time. People didn't know knows. Like I remember there's a point where you're in the middle of it and you're like, this is never gonna end.
Yeah, it's
How
true.
long are we gonna do this? And then I think we recovered very quickly. I think people started going back outside, regulations started getting lifted. I think people were really itchy to start getting back to normal life.
Did any of you guys ever catch COVID during the?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, January
I didn't.
2021.
Yeah.
My son and I got COVID, and my son was really sick. I was doing okay, but it lasted, I don't know, 7 days really, symptoms for him, and then it was gone. So
Those tests were crazy.
oh my gosh. And like during that time, the mayor enacted emergency powers because he had to, right? It was an emergency. And during that time, because of the mayor's emergency powers, we were able to make decisions very, very quickly and act very quickly versus waiting for a council meeting to pass a motion and all that other stuff. I was not expecting, obviously, to deal with that
Yeah.
as a counselor, as a decision maker. And at the city level of government, we are the front lines.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
we are the people closest to the people.
Yeah.
And so they just call the mayor, they call their counselor, even though we don't deal with healthcare, we don't deal with, immigration or shutting down the borders. It's the federal level, right?
Yeah.
But they call us. So the pressure on the mayor and council to act immediately was insane. And you talked about communication. So one of the amazing things that we did, that the mayor did during COVID, we had weekly telephone town hall meetings.
Wow.
So we would call all the residents throughout the city of Brampton once a week. Usually it's on a Wednesday night, once a week, and provide an update over the phone to whomever picked up the phone. To the residents on what the latest information you heard from the medical officer of health, you would hear from the fire chief, you would hear from Mayor Patrick Brown or myself giving updates regularly. And when people are in a state of anxiety, what we learned in COVID is communication is so key.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, that was tough times. That was tough times for us.
Yeah, I could only imagine, because even just as a civilian, like there's so much going through your head. But at the political level, where
Yeah.
your job is really to help take care of the city, I can only imagine the stress and just the anxiety and just not knowing what it is until knowing what it is, and then knowing what it is and being like, okay, like where do we go from here? Because most people will never have to deal with a pandemic in their career, right? As a
No.
president or as a counselor, so it was
Yeah.
almost everybody working on the fly, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So,
but Brampton got a bad rap at one point, right?
Yeah.
At one point in the news, people were like, "Oh, Brampton is the hot spot. It's the place to go if you want to get COVID."
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was on the news.
Yeah.
But like what people don't realize, and this was the other challenge for us in Brampton, not just as politicians, but for our people, we only have one hospital.
yeah.
We only have one emergency room.
Yeah.
Okay, keep that in mind. And then the other piece that we dealt with in COVID is we are Canada's logistics and food manufacturing hub. We have Amazon, we have the truckers, we've got Maple Lodge Farms, we've got food manufacturing here, Amazon. So when everyone else around the country was able to work from home, guess what
Yeah.
Brampton was doing? We were working
Oh, I was
to
essential.
keep,
Yeah, me
to
too.
keep things going.
Yeah, we were
You
out
know?
there.
So we in Brampton exposed ourselves to COVID in order to keep the country literally moving.
That's really important that you mentioned that, because I do remember when everybody was just stereotyping Brampton as
Yeah.
this is the hotspot for COVID. But that is one of the most important things that nobody talks about, is that Brampton is a hub for essential workers. Like a lot of the jobs here, you can't work from home. So like you said, we're putting ourselves out there in the front lines. Me and Reggies we were
Shout
out
out
there.
Prab too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Prab. We were all in the trenches of it. So
Yeah.
I caught COVID 3 times. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
3?
Yeah,
3 times.
Yeah, and I have asthma.
Yo.
I'm the MVP.
Oh man, that's
Holy
weird.
smokes.
Yeah. So, and every time I caught it, the first time I caught it, it's whatever. Second time's like okay, but the third time I caught it was like near death. Like I couldn't move, and it was terrible. And like the thing is that people, like it brings into another conversation about vaccines and stuff, because there's those people that go around and think like, oh, why are you taking the vaccine? You don't need to take that one. Wow.
Yeah.
Mind you, they have perfect health their whole life.
Yeah.
They don't have any pre-existing conditions. But
Yeah.
when the vaccines finally came,
Yeah.
what was that like a sign of relief for you guys, or
A
and
little
how
bit.
was
We
that
still had to
logistically?
fight for it,
Yeah?
right? Like in Peel Region in Brampton, we at council really had to push and make the argument saying, hey, we're a hotspot for a reason. We're a hotspot because our people are delivering your Amazon products because you can't pick it up at the store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Our people are the one who are shipping the food from one coast to the other coast so that you can get fresh produce in your grocery stores when you go shopping. So that's why our folks were getting sick. And then on top of that, we had one emergency room. So we had to fight and say, for equity reasons, we need more access to the vaccine, because our people in our city are the ones who are sacrificing or putting their lives at risk in order to make the country a better place during COVID. So that once we got the vaccines, that was a huge relief. We like opened up our rec centers and various other facilities in order to have people get their vaccines. We did a whole campaign around it. We even had one of the beautiful things, and this is why I love being an artist and am able to push these things. You know, when the restaurants shut down and all the events shut down, our musicians, our artists had no more gigs.
Yeah.
And while people during COVID were resorting to Netflix and movies and music to console themselves, they were using arts to console themselves. No one was supporting the artists.
Yeah.
You know? And so one of the things that I did was I tried to find opportunities for local musicians and artists to perform, like either online, and do videos together with them to highlight them online. But we also hired musicians and local artists to play music while people were in line getting their vaccines in our recreation center.
That's something I didn't know. That's pretty.
Wow.
That I think, at least for me, flew under the radar.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know that.
So while people were in line, like at the hospital or in Save Max Sports Center for getting their vaccine or other big facilities, we hired artists to perform, to provide entertainment as people were getting their vaccines.
Wow.
That brings us into another. I don't know how you want to bring this up, but the stereotypes surrounding
Oh, yeah.
the city.
Oh, yeah.
So you mentioned already so far, like there's so many different languages, so many different hidden food spots here, and it seems that Brampton continues to get this rep that it's one specific demographic here, and that we're just, like just one, one diaspora. So, like, in your opinion, you being more outside than anybody I've ever seen, like, what do you say to people who think Brampton is just like one culture and one demographic?
Yeah, they're so wrong.
Like social media has like such a grasp on people's regular opinions, and then they come into Brampton thinking like they're expecting like somebody to swerve off the road into a ditch or something.
Yeah,
but it's
I
like whoa,
know.
like
I know.
I've never gotten into an accident. I've been here since like 2008.
For sure.
I gotta make sure I don't jinx myself. But yeah, so like things like that where it's like not factually accurate. How do you feel? Yes, if you want to speak on that a bit.
It's one of the things, and you asked me earlier, what are some of the things that you've wanted to accomplish as a counselor? It's one of those things that I've wanted to accomplish as a counselor is shifting the brand and the image and the story and the narrative of our beautiful city. People like to shit on Brampton all the time for various stereotypes, but they don't actually highlight things like all the various incredible, talented artists and comedians like Russell Peters, who's from Brampton, or like Alicia Cara, who's from Brampton, and various other artists who are from the city. Atiba Hutchinson, who is a Team Canada player on their Team Canada soccer team. We have 2 gold medalists, Khadijah Buchanan and Ashley Lawrence, soccer players, gold medalists from Brampton. The 7 players on Team Canada for soccer were from Brampton. And so, and not all of them are brown. In fact, majority of them are not.
Yeah.
Right.
And so these are some of the things that I want to push and highlight in our city is this negative narrative and combat it by talking about who we are.
Yeah.
The At the Basement folks.
Yeah.
Who are here. this podcast that you guys are doing. That's who Brampton is. And you know what? So what if a good chunk of us are brown?
Yeah.
Like, so what? Like, what is wrong with that?
Yeah.
Why is that? A good chunk of the rest of the country is white.
Exactly.
Is anyone seeing a problem with that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think that the fact that our city and our country is based really in newcomers people who like to say bad things about Brampton or just focus on one thing, perhaps are either afraid, feel threatened. I have no idea.
I think it's very easy to cast the first stone.
Yeah.
Let's use this as an excuse as to why something's happening, or I got into a car accident. It's because of this. I feel like it's a very easy way to like just throw the blame. Feel very, like, how do I say it? Like you're not, like you're just using an excuse not to blame yourself, or finding ways to make yourself feel better rather than, let's take a look at what actually is going on.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's.
Yeah, and I'm also like, so I'm also the vice chair of economic development for the city. So I get to meet and greet a whole bunch of major businesses from around the world. Many of them choose Brampton because we're some of the hardest working people in the country.
Yeah.
Like we have not only Amazon, Lululemon, my favorite. One of my favorites.
Best underwear in the world.
Lululemon is setting up a 1 million square foot distribution center in Brampton.
Wow.
No, that's like thousands of jobs.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And I don't know if you know a company called MDA. MDA, so if you take out, who has a $5 bill? Anyone got a $5 bill here? Anyway, no, we're all on debit. We're all on like friggin'
Prab got that. Prab got that cash. Prab got it.
Prab.
Big baller.
Okay, I want you to.
Big baller.
Okay, so this is a $5
It's so wrinkled,
bill,
man. Let's go.
right? Take a look at the back, that side of the $5 bill. And what you see on the $5 bill on the other side, is the Canada arm. The Canada arm is designed and manufactured. So Canada arm is on the satellite, the space satellite, International Space Station. And MDA is the designer and manufacturer of the Canada arm. You know where that was made? Brampton.
Wow.
So Brampton is on the $5 bill. That was made by MDA, Brampton Company, Brampton employees. They're expanding their business as well. And then there are other incredible companies that are here in the city. Canon, one of the Fortune 500 companies headquartered in Japan, is headquartered. They have their Canadian headquarters here in Brampton, Canon. So like there's so many stories about our city that unfortunately aren't being shared and told. And those stories would not exist without the brown people, without the Filipinos, without, the 250 other cultures that make up our city.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shout out to one of my really good friends, Giselle. She, me and Prab are actually godfathers to her daughter. She was very excited to have you here because she's Filipino. They have a very big following.
Awesome.
I tell you, she was so excited when she sees the skit, when she sees the podcast. They're gonna be so excited. There's a very big.
Giselle's her name.
Her name is Giselle.
Hey,
Yeah.
Giselle.
Yeah, she's a very big supporter from the beginning.
Oh, I
and I
love
told
it.
her she was so excited. So, just a quick shout out.
I love our Pinoy, our Kababayan, our Filipino community. I am such a proud Filipino. And if it wasn't for my upbringing and my culture, I definitely wouldn't be sitting here right now. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. And then I think one of the good ways to, as you were saying before, to spotlight the good that we're doing is, for example, so we did the skit.
Yeah.
They graciously allowed us. Where's the camera?
I couldn't believe it.
We walked into City Hall with a construction hat, a hard hat,
A baseball bat.
baseball. There was a baseball bat. There was a walking boot,
Basketball.
safety glasses, basketball, soccer ball, and we kind of. I'm not going to spoil it. You guys can go watch the skit, but we did something very. I don't think there's no way anyone's ever done anything like that before. We very
played-
much
yeah.
like it was edited in a way to a very popular TV show. Like it is so. That was so refreshing
Oh, yeah.
to
Yeah.
do and to watch. I think taking more initiatives like that, because with the podcast, we also like to do something outside with the people that we have
Right.
on, right? So
Yeah.
like with our comedian friend Jesse, we did that little kidnapping.
Yes.
Obviously it was all staged. Stuff like that where it's like it's a bit more engaging with people, right? Because we can all sit here and talk for an hour and a half, but then if we get a little, film a little
Yeah.
skit, do a little acting, make it fun for people.
Yeah, I'm so lucky. I work with a mayor and with a commissioner bench and a CAO. CAO is like the boss of the city. and all the staff and the commissioners make all the different, also the heads of the city as well. But particularly the mayor, he always says that to everyone, this is your city hall, it's not ours. This belongs to you. And the other thing that's really amazing is the flexibility that I've been given to engage the young people, to bring them in, to let them feel and experience City Hall in their own way.
Yeah.
You know, like that was your own way. And you could actually share the story. I was at City Hall playing basketball in the chamber, you know, and I think because our city is one of the youngest cities in the country. Do you know the average age of the city?
No.
Average age of the city is, I think, 36.5.
Wow.
36.5 years old is the average age of the city. So we're super young. Now, I'll tell you that when we post all this and this podcast and the skit that we did and all the fun that we were having engaging young people with the city, those trolls out there are going to be like, this is very inappropriate. How dare you? Who is she? How does this add value to
She needs
the
to fix
city?
the potholes.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see all of the grumpy old folks, like, you know, write about, you know, this is not what you should be doing. Well, you know what? These are also the same people who criticized me for wearing ripped jeans one day.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's crazy. It's so crazy.
Like that's what I mean. Like it's easy for them to look at it from a old school point of view or whatever it is, but like we're moving forward. Technologies, like there's so many things that are going to be changing in the future, and if people don't get on board with it, it's gonna the longer it's gonna take for us to make strides. Where it's like it's gonna be a lot like we were talking about the bike lanes earlier.
Yeah.
Back in the day, people probably expected bikes to be on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Nobody expected a bike lane. All this stuff that people are gonna try and hold back. Once it really starts coming forward and we start really making more progress, is when I think we'll see a lot more growth in the city, in the world, and all over the place. I think people are very very
Hesitant.
like afraid of
Hesitant.
what could be in general. Like we could have a lot. Well, I guess we'll see over time, right? Like the e-scooter things was fantastic.
We're
The
happy about
personal
that.
level that we had with that, and then coming back here and feeling it, it motivated. You know, you feel better about it. I guess maybe everyone kind of needs an experience like that to really start getting on board with the new stuff and the new people and the, you know, it's not just going to be one type of guy you're seeing on the TV talking to you. It's going to be a woman. It's going to be a young kid. It's going to be someone right out of high school. You know, it could be some crazy stuff that people are going to have to get used to for them to really.
But that's where innovation and that's where creativity live, right? Innovation, creativity does not live in something that is stagnant.
Yeah.
You don't get new ideas by maintaining the status quo.
Exactly.
You know, I look at musicians like the classics, like Madonna, who has reinvented herself over and over and over again, and continues to be so like a legend.
Yeah.
You know, and other artists as well, like even Prince. And now I'm dating myself to like 1980s, 1990s. But other artists as well, they do not stay stagnant. The minute you stay stagnant with your work is the minute you just void yourself.
Yeah.
No one pays attention anymore, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Anything else you got?
Nah, I feel like we covered a lot today and very efficiently too.
It was a real conversation.
Yeah,
you
genuine
didn't ask me about my pet peeve.
There's two. Okay, so there's two things. There's two things I want to ask about before we wrap up. First thing is your pet peeve. Yeah, you have a pet peeve. What is
I
it?
do mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes? Oh my goodness, we are in that season.
Hey, mosquitoes.
Oh man, we are in the midst of it right now.
We are.
I know we're kind of going back and forth because I just think of stuff as we go. But working in office, do you ever get complaints about stuff that has nothing to do with you? Like,
yeah, you have any funny like political stories, like a complaint?
Because I feel like when people see a councilman, a councilwoman, like they think, like, you need to fix this.
Oh yeah, I get in my inbox all the time.
Oh my goodness.
There was one time when there was a there was a resident who had a tree fall on their private property, right?
Okay.
And not city property, not a city tree, just a tree on their private property. But because it was on their private property, we couldn't send a parks team or whatever because we could be liable if we were to do something about it. So anyway, they could not find a resolution. They kept saying, you got to do something about this tree on my backyard and blah, blah. So you know what I did with my partner, Councillor Vicente? He calls me. He's like, Rowena, so I have a chainsaw. I'm like,
What are you going to do to those people?
I'm like, do you know how to use the chainsaw? And he's like, I think so. And I'm like, oh man. I'm like, okay, well, it's not the Parks Department doing it. It's like it's just us doing it. I guess maybe we should just go there and do it for this person. So we literally on a Saturday morning went to her house with like a trailer to take the tree away with a chainsaw and safety glasses and literally cut down the tree that fell onto her property.
That's going that is that if that's not going above and beyond, I don't know what is.
Yeah. There's things like that, or like neighbors who are fighting with each other. You get that a lot, right? And they
I see that a lot.
I'm kind of getting to that point.
and
My neighbors.
So they call the counselor to be like, my neighbor, their garbage is overflowing and you guys got to do something about it. And then that person will be like, well, my neighbor this. Anyway, there's another time when there was a resident who's like, the neighbors next door, their garbage is overflowing. They're like not taking care of the property. So what we did, we went to their house. And as we were pulling up, the person was coming out of their driveway. And I was like, hey, excuse me. Can I talk to you, please? Yeah. And I'm like, listen, can you just have a little respect and just put the garbage in the garbage? And they're like, well, we don't have enough room in our garbage bin. So then Councillor Vicente magically out of his van brought out a garbage bin.
This guy.
He's like,
who's this guy?
Here's this garbage bin. Here you go.
Yeah.
Like you could just take this and just put the garbage in the garbage bin for us. And we like literally had to have a conversation with them about being respectful neighbors. Yeah, so things like that.
What else does he have in the back of his car?
I know. Chainsaws, garbage bins, right? So funny. Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Things like that happen to us all the time.
So the last thing I want to ask you before we wrap up, what does the next couple of years look like for you? Are we looking at more political runs? Are we looking at premier? Like, what's
oh my gosh,
is
that's
the
so
sky the
funny.
limit for you? Like, what do you?
Well, the re-election is in 2026, so I'll be seeking re-election in 2026, and then there's so much still here to do in our city. Yeah. At this point in time, I don't necessarily have any interest in running for other levels of government at the moment, and because in municipal politics, people always ask me, what party you with, what party you represent. When you represent at the municipal level, there's no party. Like you represent, I am the party of Brampton. I'm like the Brampton party. Yeah. And so I make decisions on behalf of Brampton residents, not a political party. Exactly. And I used to work in party politics before going to municipal, and I needed a break because your hands are tied in party politics. So right now, I want to, number one, get more young people involved and get reelected in 2026 as a regional councillor. At this point in time, that's kind of where I'm going. And then we'll take it from there,
Right.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe mayor, MP one day. Who knows?
I would love to see MP and mayor. Like I feel like it's been a while since we had like people, like I said, like in the beginning of the pod, like a lot of young people are very disconnected from politics and politicians. And having someone like you who is outside, who is with the people, who are really building connections and conversations with everybody, now when it's time for you to go up, for mayor, it's like, that's the homie. Yeah. You feel more connected compared to someone that just is very, some people move with a second agenda. Like they don't really care until it's time to care.
Yeah.
So, and I feel
behind the scenes, they're a different person. They don't really.
Yeah. And I feel like you're wholeheartedly yourself, and that I feel like it's what's worked the best for you so far. Yeah. And I see it working even further the more you continue your career and continue everything you're doing with your volunteer work and with what you're doing for the arts. And I just want to take this time to really genuinely say thank you for coming on the pod and really giving people who don't fully understand this world insight from the horse's mouth, you know? So yeah, let's make some noise for that. Like,
Thank you.
yeah. Rajiv, you have anything you want to finish us off with?
I really hope that everyone who watches this, especially politicians, people see the clips and hopefully they come and they watch the majority, at least of this. You know, they realize it's a little bit more about what you do instead of how you're perceived. You know, being a little bit more unique. You know, they don't have to fall into a certain. I feel like there's a certain look that everyone thinks they need to fall into. They don't have to do that. I feel like the more unique it is, the better it's going to be. You know, they're going to see you on the podcast, like, oh, how'd she do that? You know, we got to get on the. You know, stuff like that, where it makes them want to be motivated to go out and do a little bit more themselves. Yeah. As people of the people.
But right? I also feel like doing this with anybody else would feel so forced and so like I feel like it just works with you because you are already the person you are. Whereas I feel like if it was with anybody else, it'd be very like we wouldn't have the creative freedom that we had working with you throughout this whole time. Like we wouldn't be able to play ball at City Hall, you know? Yeah. Like we wouldn't.
Yeah, tell the mayor it was a one-time thing. We're not.
There's so much hope, and I want to say really thank you to all of you guys for providing this platform for somebody like myself to share the stories, share what it's like, and communicate that to all the other young people. But there's a lot of hope going on when it comes to politics. When you look at United States, what's going on there with Kamala Harris, she said something that she said a lot of things that resonated with me as a woman in leadership. But one of the things she said, and you kind of touched on it, Reggie, was don't let people tell you who you are. You show them who you are. And that is something that fundamentally I believe is we show people who we are, and who gives a F about what other people say that you are or what you are not. So thanks for providing me with this opportunity. And would love to see you guys again. And if anyone is interested in learning more, just visit my website, councillorsantos.ca.
We're gonna have all the clips. We're gonna have everything affiliated with the councillor. We're gonna be. I think the posts we're gonna be doing. I'll try to do it. We'll both post it so we have it on. Yeah. They can find both of us and really reach out with whatever they have.
Awesome.
Once again, thank you guys for tuning in to this special episode
sorry, real quick, I got one.
What?
Do you have? I know you kind of just did it, but is there? We like to do a quote of the day here before we finish. Is there a quote? I know, like I said, I know you just said one, but is there something that maybe you live by, that you want to share with everyone really quick before we go?
Yeah. So the quote I shared was Kamala Harris's quote, but the quote that I have is take your place, own the space, and do it with style, humor, smarts, and grace.
Say it one more time.
Take your place, own the space, do it with style, humor, smarts, and grace. Snap.
All right, guys. It's been a pleasure. We'll be back.
Thanks so much, all.
Thank you guys for listening and watching.
We out.
That was fun.